Support for Central Florida Public Media comes from Orange County Library System, offering enriching programs and resources for seniors at 15 locations throughout the county, with hands-on workshops, expert-led seminars, and more. A complete list of programs is available at ocls.org/senior/events.
Orange County School District is considering closing 7 schools. What comes next? You're listening to The Wrap from Central Florida Public Media. I'm Brendan Byrne. The Orange County Public School District is weighing plans to close 7 schools next year. On Tuesday, the school board met to review the proposal to consolidate the students from the 7 across 17 other schools in the county. Hundreds of parents attended community meetings with OCPS leaders recently, held over a 2-week period. Many were upset at the possibility of their children's school shutting down.
So this is going to completely take them out of their everyday routine, and I just don't want it to affect them emotionally, affect their mental health. They'll be losing their friends, their teachers, just having the feel of a culture here at this school.
And this round of potential closures might not be the last. We hear from Orange County Public Schools about this process and what lies ahead for the district students. That's ahead on The Wrap, the big stories this week from Central Florida Public Media. But first, these headlines. The Orlando City Attorney has informed city leaders that there's nothing they can do through a moratorium or zoning or otherwise to block a potential U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement detention center. But as Central Florida Public Media's Joe Burns reports, Orange County is still studying its options.
In an email to the Orlando mayor and city commissioners, City Attorney Mayanne Downs cites the federal supremacy clause, saying ICE is immune from local regulation that interferes with its federal mandate. But Orange County Mayor Jerry Deming says the county attorney is still researching their options and litigation is possible, though they'd like to avoid it. Deming says the issue could be ready for the February 10th commission meeting.
Hopefully we'll have enough research done, facts, data, to have a public conversation with every member of our board about where we head.
ICE has been adding detention centers around the country as part of the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. An agency official told reporters they're considering a large warehouse in East Orlando as a potential site. Joe Burns, Central Florida Public Media.
A third House proposal to reduce property taxes is ready to go to the full House, while the Senate has not put forward a plan. The Republican-dominated House Ways and Means Committee voted 10-4 along party lines to support a proposed constitutional amendment that would limit increases in taxable values for homestead property under the Save Our Homes cap to 3% over 3 years. The Save Our Homes limit is currently 3% per year. The proposal also would limit increases in taxable values of non-homestead property. GOP Representative Griff Griffiths is sponsoring the legislation.
Property taxes are not simply payments to the government. They're an investments in community safety, infrastructure, and the quality of life we live. Rather than seeking to eliminate them entirely, we should focus our efforts in ensuring they're used efficiently and transparently. Democrats and local government officials are worried that reduced property tax revenue could lead to decreased services and shift the tax burden to renters and businesses. State Representative Kelly Skidmore opposes the plan.
It is a false narrative. You don't get to just cut all the revenue and still have everything that you've always had. You can't cut your budget and keep paying and providing the things you've always provided.
Other proposals ready to go to the full House would phase out non-school homestead property taxes over the next decade and increase the homestead property tax exemption for residents who have property insurance. Legislation filed at the state capitol would establish a system for protecting children when law enforcement has identified an imminent threat in an area. The bill would create a new statewide alert system to give real-time warnings to schools, daycares, and nearby residents if there is an active serious threat happening within a 3-mile radius. The bill, which supporters call the Yaya Alert Act, comes after the 2023 deaths of Tiana Yaya Major and 2 others in Orange County, when a murder suspect returned to a crime scene hours later and killed Major and Spectrum News reporter Dylan Lyons. Senate bill sponsor Chevron Jones.
Protecting children and communities should never be a partisan issue. This bill will ensure that law enforcement moves immediately, not after paperwork, not after confusion, but when lives are already at risk.
With more than 2 weeks of the 60-day legislative session already over, neither the House nor Senate versions of the bill has been heard in any legislative committee. These stories and more on our website. Visit cfpublic.org. As early as next month, 3 Americans and 1 Canadian will launch to the moon on the Artemis II mission, continuing a long tradition of multinational space exploration.
I like to kind of say that our countries are best friends, and now we explore the stars together, and that's pretty cool too.
A Canadian space podcast reflects on seeing the first from his country fly to the moon. That's this week on Are We There Yet? Get it where you get this podcast. The Orange County Public School District is weighing plans to close 7 schools next year. On Tuesday, the school board met to review the proposal to consolidate the students from the 7 across 17 other schools in the county. Hundreds of parents attended community meetings with OCPS leaders recently held over a 2-week period. And after hearing from parents and school board members, it's clear they don't want to close the schools. To better understand how the district says it reached this point, Engage host Sharon Stone spoke with Scott Howitt, Chief Communications Officer for Orange County Public Schools. He talks about how the district is advocating for public school in Tallahassee this week and addresses those concerns we heard about from families.
There has been confusion about the status of the 7 schools discussed for consolidation. As of today, are those schools scheduled to close?
It's 2 parts. The board on December 16th gave direction to the superintendent to move forward with school consolidation of the 7 schools. There's a process that takes place that would include community meetings, rezoning, which includes rural development meetings. They had their work session this week, and then they'll do a rural development meeting next week. And then the final decision is at the board meeting on March 10th. That's when the decision to consolidate the schools will be final. We're moving through that process because the board has provided direction to do so. And we wouldn't be doing this to the communities, to the staff, if we weren't intending on moving forward with consolidation. Is it final? No, that will happen on March 10th, but we're moving towards that and moving through that process.
Okay, so it's a foregone conclusion. This is going to happen.
I can't speak for the board or say that ultimately the board will, how they're going to vote. I don't know. What we do know is the board provided direction to the superintendent to move forward. We've done the things that we've needed to do when it comes to providing the community meetings, the rezoning, the public input, both in person and electronically. I know that we're moving through the process to get to the outcome where they can vote to ultimately to consolidate the 7 schools.
What do you say to parents and families who say they felt blindsided by consolidation discussions?
I just say that these discussions are very difficult. They've been difficult for us talking about them, at the leadership and district level. Very, very difficult. And, I personally have gone and presented at half of the meetings that we've held, and they're hard. What I would say is that the timeline for this was accelerated because of decisions that were made during legislative session last session.
What about the families worried that their school could be next? What should they be paying attention to right now?
Some of the things that we look at when we're looking at school enrollment is how many students reside within a school zone and how many students are attending versus that attendance. And is there room for the school to grow, to increase in enrollment? We know that for an elementary school, for example, that operationally, in order to ensure that all of the resources necessary that support students outside of the classroom, principal, assistant principal, media specialist, guidance counselor, that they're paid for through having enough students enrolled within the school. That kind of break even point is 680 students. So we look to ensure that our schools are close or approaching that number, and that if there are schools that have students within their zone, they don't attend the school, but they potentially could, then that's some area for growth and trying to pull them in. And, anything that parents can do within their schools to help talk up and promote their schools, there's nothing like that grassroots advocacy for a school. We will be providing assistance to principals and best practices on helping to get their message out for the amazing things that are happening within their schools and to get out there. And so drawing them in. And I think that's a big part of trying to solidify the schools that we have and make sure that they continue to operate efficiently, because we have a duty to the taxpayers of Orange County to ensure that our schools are run efficiently. We don't want to cut programs because a school has less students, and that's what would ultimately happen.
The superintendent said enrollment losses are likely to continue. What is driving those declines across the district that people should be aware of?
Our strategy right now is to address declining enrollment. And there's many factors that are outside of our control. Declining birth rates has been really significant. While we had some of the highest birth rates in 2007, and those students are now graduating from high school. In fact, last year we had our largest graduating high school class. We're seeing much fewer kindergartners entering the system, and the expansion of universal choice under the taxpayer-funded vouchers has also given parents the opportunity to homeschool, send their child to a private school. Those pressures have caused declining enrollment, and certainly things that are outside of our control. I think another has been immigration policy. The changes over the last year in immigration policy has impacted not just in Orange County student enrollment, but statewide. And specifically, we've seen since temporary protective status has been removed for countries like Venezuela, we saw a loss in 1,200 Venezuelan students from last year to this year. And so we've seen a total of 2,500 immigrant students not show up in our schools, whether they're staying at home, whether they've moved out of the state or out of the country. We're still trying to determine some of that, but we do know that they're not in our schools.
So you're trying to do budget long-term planning with this outlook. Is Tallahassee listening to you?
I think Tallahassee understands the situation we're in when it comes to declining enrollment. Our concern is that as enrollment declines, the funding that was tied to the students that would have been funded if they were present, that funding is somehow reallocated back to the students that are there so that we can preserve some of the programs and the other benefits that we have for our students and families while declining enrollment's happening, because funding is tied to the student. If the student isn't there, then the funding doesn't come. But the funding was still generated through the state. So what we're advocating for is to reappropriate that money to increase student funding overall in order to help provide the additional supports that we need for our students, for our families, so we can continue to provide them the highest quality education possible.
That was Scott Howitt, Chief Communications Officer for Orange County Public Schools, speaking with Engage host Sharon Stone. Hear more about the decision process to close these schools on the Engage podcast. Get it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get this podcast. That's it for The Wrap this week. This podcast is produced by Central Florida Public Media with editorial assistance from News Director LaToya Dennis. I'm Brendan Byrne. This is The Wrap.